Good morning. I'm James Morris, a member of the Worship Committee. My pronouns are he, him, and it's my pleasure to welcome all of you to this Halifax Unitarians space, but never forgetting our Universalist heritage. We have our opening, our gathering song here together before we head into the further comments on the welcome.
Okay, so the words should be on the back of your, I was going to say brochure, of your order of service. Most of you know this. For newcomers, we sing this at the beginning and the end of the services to welcome you to this space. So if you would like to stand, sit, dance, do whatever you want. 1, 2, 3. We are here together in this holy moment, and we're grateful for the winding road that brought us to this place. Let's do that again. We are here together in this holy moment, and we're grateful for the winding road that brought us to this place.
This year, we are without a minister for the first time in many years, but we are still here with all our passion, love, and commitment to making a better world. And the blessing of this year without a minister is that all our services will be led by diverse members of our congregation, and that will only serve to make our community better. Today, we are blessed to have Reverend Charles Bull with us to give our presentation, or to give his presentation, and I will do a formal introduction for him a little bit later in the service. And we are pleased to have our music director, Jessica, providing music for the service. We are an open-minded, open-hearted spiritual community for curious and compassionate seekers. As you use, we recognize that the truths of the universe are too complex to be summed up in any one religious tradition's dogma. So instead of focusing on creeds and beliefs here, we focus on cultivating relationships, community, and responsible action in this life. We draw meaning and wisdom from many sources: the healing power of nature, the fierce call of social justice work, the enlightened discoveries of science, the ancient teachings of interdependence and unity, and awe for the great mystery itself. UUs, through their Universalist heritage, have proclaimed for decades that love is love and love is divine, and that gender and sexuality are experienced and expressed in a beautiful spectrum of possibilities. If you are new here, we welcome you. And if you haven't been here for a while, welcome back. If you would like to be on our email distribution list, please leave your name and email address in the book in the ballroom. There will be coffee and tea after the service, and we look forward to getting to know each other more and to welcome everyone new or feeling new. I complete this welcome with a short reading from the Reverend Ray Drennan. You are welcome here, visitor, friend, or longtime member. You are welcome here. With family, or your partner, or lover, or alone, we joyfully welcome you here. You are welcome here as doubter or believer, as joiner or loner. You are welcome here feeling a part of us or not, full of energy or plain tired, seeking a vision or a rest. You are welcome to join us as you are. I'm going to open it to announcements. If anyone has a short announcement that they would like to let people know about. I know that there was our board had suggested masking for the service. I'm not going to enforce that, but if there are in the table, just as you come in the door, masks, and you're welcome to avail yourself of those if you can. A choir announcement from Jessica, I think.
Yeah. You want to say more? There we go. Yeah. So as we start this new year, basically, it's already begun, but I would encourage anyone to join the choir since we don't have enough people. It's kind of been canceled at the moment. So yeah, hopefully we'll get out a new crowd. Just come up to me at the end of the service and I'll give you more information. Thank you.
And some of you will have seen a survey announcement that came through email. I think that Pam was allotting the 12 people who filled it out, so hopefully there'll be more who will fill it out. It's being done for the search committee. And Linda has something.
Funny things.
Okay.
I'll turn around between each one so you think it's a new person. As apparently the new coordinator of membership and fellowship, I would like to add an addendum to James's welcome. If you are new with us today, if you're visiting today, this is your first time here. If you would like to stand and introduce yourselves and tell us where you're from and what brings you here today. Any takers?
I think there's-
Hi, I'm Judy Johnson, and I've just moved here from Peterborough, Ontario, in order to be closer to my son, who's in the Navy. He's not coming home, so this is home now. And so I'm just here I attended the Unitarian Fellowship in Peterborough, and just feels very comfortable.
Hooray. Welcome,
Wonderful to have
welcome.
you.
This was left on the front table. Has a note, says this is the personal diary of someone named Dean. If you know Dean, who comes here, please see that he gets it unopened. If you don't know Dean, please just leave it here.
Dean White?
I don't know.
All we have was Dean.
Okay.
I'll
Am
put
I
it in-
turning it over to you?
Yeah,
Okay.
I'll put it in the office and mention
From
it.
the food box there, right?
Hmm?
I think somebody had put it in the food box.
I don't know. It was on the table this morning. The Tuesday lunch bunch, 3 words, will be hosting Thanksgiving Day meal today on Thanksgiving Day. There'll be more information in the newsletter, but under the chalice over the fireplace is a sign-up sheet where you can start indicating who you are, number in your party, what dish you plan to bring so that we can do a little bit of coordination, and how you would like to volunteer to help with the setup. And finally, as James said, thank you to the now 17 of you who have responded to the survey. If we get about 3 times that many more, we can make a pretty legitimate statement about what the congregation is. So apologies for pleading with you to do it and then sending you to the wrong address. But Pam sent out the correct link, and it's also at the bottom of the original newsletter that you got. So we have paper copies today. If you are just not electronically inclined, see me after the service. I think that's all.
Great, thank you.
On a totally unrelated matter, I just went looking for the hammer, which used to be in our toolbox, and it's not there anymore. So if somebody borrowed the hammer, now is the time to return it. What's there in its place is a dollar store version of a hammer, which doesn't really work well. So,
Where that is.
do you? Wonderful, thank you.
You didn't have to hammer that message home.
I didn't move it. It wasn't me.
Know where it is.
Folks might know about the Grandmothers to Grandmothers, which is a group that support the grannies in Africa who are caring for their children who have been orphaned as a result of AIDS and HIV over the years. And so Stephen Lewis Foundation is like the sort of the head of the grandmothers campaigns. And so they are having their 30th anniversary commemorative solidarity quilt. And this quilt is traveling across Canada, and an effort of more than, this is horrible, because this was, something that was taken from an email, and it's very, very hard to read. But, I think it says 300 grandmothers made this quilt. And so we want the grandmothers, the local Grannies for Africa group, want you to admire the quilt at different locations. And so Findlay Community Center, which is over in Dartmouth on the other side of the duck pond, on Elliott Street, on Wednesday, October 11th, from 1 to 4. Now, for more,
Makes sense to leave it on the front desk?
yeah, yeah, and so it is going to be at the North Branch Library here, and St. Luke's Church and St. Margaret's Bay Road, and First Baptist in Halifax, and all the Humanity Farmers Market. So it's quite a few locations that it's traveling to.
Thank you. Thank you very much. As we prepare ourselves to enter into sacred space, we must first acknowledge the truths of this land and concerns about our planet. I now invite Leslie Robinson to give the land and climate acknowledgement, and Leslie is somewhere in the ether on Zoom today.
Yes, good morning. Here I am in Yarmouth. We acknowledge that this part of North America, or what's known as Turtle Island, is the traditional and unceded territory of the Mi'kmaq people. Indigenous people here and around the world are making renewed efforts to pass on their knowledge of nature to the younger generation. Taking children into the outdoors to find wild food is invaluable for their appreciation of the earth and all that it provides us. It's also important for non-Indigenous folks to do the same. Many of our young people today know very little about nature and how vital it is for our future. Foraging for wild food is a great way to begin that education. As Jamie Simpson writes in his recent book, gathering edibles is instinctive. Most kids take to it with the barest encouragement. For a few 100,000 years, generation after generation spent part of their days gathering food. These words come from his excellent book. Here it is. Eating Wild in Eastern Canada, a guide for foraging the forests, fields, and shorelines. This book is very well illustrated for beginners, and it has lots of references and cooking recipes. Whenever we take the time to forage, we're not only benefiting from delicious and healthy meals, we are also eating local food. And over time, we can become less reliant on produce from distant shores. And as we do that, we lessen the harmful impacts of transportation. Just another way of reducing our carbon footprint. Thank you.
Thank you, Leslie. Is there anybody who wants to light the chalice, or do you want me to do it?
Dr. James is already up front.
I'm gonna light.
In the front. No, James.
Like it the way he wants. He's a good Boy Scout.
It'll get done.
I now invite you to take a few deep breaths. We enter into this time that we call worship, where we turn with intention to the things that are worthy of our attention. And we do this by lighting a chalice. Our chalice lighting words this morning are a responsive reading at number 550 in the gray hymnal entitled "We Belong to the Earth." And they are attributed to Chief Noah Stealth When you find the reading, please join me. I'll read the first section, and then the italicized words afterward would be for the response. Number 550. This we know, the earth does not belong to us, we belong to the earth. This we know, all things are connected by the blood which unites one family. All things are connected. Whatever befalls the earth, befalls the sons and daughters of the earth. We did not weave the web of life, we are merely a strand in it. Whatever we do to the web, we do to ourselves. This is my favorite part of the service. That's to wake people up in case they're nodding. Our opening hymn is number 299 in the Gray Hymn Book, Make Channels for the Streams of Love. And I'm not sure why, but this is one of my favorite hymns.
Really?
Yeah.
299. I'll let you find it. Stand if you wish. Make channels for the streams of love where they may broadly run, and love has overflowing streams to fill them everyone. But if at any time we cease such channels to provide, the very fountains of love for us will soon be parched and dry. For we must share if we would keep this gift all else above. We cease to give, we cease to have, such is the law of love. Thank you.
Thank you. It has an Irish feel to that song, Irish melody, but it's an American folk melody. But anyway, I like it. Now time for joys, sorrows, and complex truths. We bring our hearts into this sacred space of community, and we open them up to each other, for each other, so that those of us who carry pain might be comforted by the presence of a loving community. And so those of us who are happy and well might share our joy and see it multiplied in others. And so those who carry complex truths might find a welcoming space to process and make meaning of all that life brings. This, our communal well, holds all of our stories. It is a place we come to be held and love. The water reminds us of our connection to each other, to all life, to earth itself. So if you have a story, a joy, a sorrow, or a complex truth on your hearts that needs to be spoken in community, we invite you to share. We invite you to drop a stone into the well of community to mark your story and remind you that you are not alone. And there is a mobile mic here.
Mobile mic. I've never heard that.
Test, check. Everybody's content? Or just getting up, just sort of, digesting that last bit of coffee? Okay, well, that's great. Glad to see everyone this morning. Dropping in a stone. So I'm adding that stone for all the joys, sorrows, and complex truths that remain in the silent sanctuaries of our hearts, the ones that words cannot express and the ones that are still in formation. This is a reading that Charles passed along. It's a Buddhist reading called The Dedication of Merit. May all places be held sacred. May all beings be cherished. May all injustices of oppression and devaluation be fully righted, remedied, and healed. May all wounds to forests, rivers, deserts, oceans, and all wounds to Mother Earth be lovingly restored to bountiful health. May all beings everywhere delight in whale song, bird song, and blue sky. May all beings abide in peace and well-being, awaken, and be free. Next, we've got a hymn, number 1064 in the Teal hymnal, entitled Blue Boat Home. It's a song by Peter Mayer. And Peter, if you may remember, presented at our service 2 years ago, and we had a wonderful time with him.
Again, stand if you wish.
1064.
Low below me, I feel no motion, standing on these mountains and plains, far away from the rolling ocean. Still my dry land heart can say, I've been sailing all my life now, never harbor or port have I known. The wide universe is the ocean I travel, and the earth is my blue boat home. Sun, my sail, and moon, my rudder, as I ply the starry seas, leaning over my head, I wonder, casting questions into the deep, drifting here with my ship's companions, all we kindred pilgrim souls, making our way by the light of the heavens in our beautiful blue boat home. Oh, you sound so wonderful. I give thanks to the waves upholding me, hail the great winds urging me on, breathe the infinite sea before me, sing the sky my sailor's song. I was born upon the fathoms, never harbor or port have I known. The wide universe is the ocean I travel, and the earth is my blue boat home.
It's exceptional. We're excited to have Reverend Charles Bull as today's speaker. Charles served as an Anglican parish priest for 35 years, ministering to congregations in Ontario and Nova Scotia. With a lifelong fascination for science, his personal spiritual practice draws on Christian, Buddhist, and Hindu traditions. Since retiring in 2020, he has been devoting his life to understanding more about the crisis facing life on Earth. And we look forward to your presentation. Thank you, Charles.
Thank you very much, James. Good morning. And thank you for inviting me to come and speak to you today. And thanks for showing up to hear about what is, frankly, an uncomfortable topic. And my thanks to thinking and talking about climate change, and so be more likely to be part of the solution and not part of the problem. So, how's everyone doing? It's been quite a year. What are some of the climate events that we've heard about in the news over the last little while? And lived through, yeah. Forest fire, that was a biggie. 150 homes, yes. Floods, yes. Fiona was a biggie. That was the whole Maritimes. Deaths, yeah, absolutely. So many things. And we know that's just in our neck of the woods. Around the world, on and on, you can't open the newspaper without more devastating news. So when we consider what's going on in our world, what feelings arise in our hearts? Anxiety. Grief. Yeah. Deep sadness. What else? Panic. Yeah. Somebody do something. Yeah, for sure. What else? Anger. Yeah. No kidding. Like, what are these guys thinking? Why is this happening? Anything else? All kinds of feelings. So what do we do with these feelings? What helps us to process these feelings that come up? What works for you? What do you do? Sorry, do something. Yes. Doing something, taking action. That's huge. And we'll talk more about that later. What else? What helps deal with those feelings? Sorry?
Turning off the news.
Turning off, yeah. We need a break from it. Yeah. And these days, it can be 24/7. You can get almost kind of obsessively addicted to it, and that's not healthy. What else helps us deal with these things? Coming together in community, absolutely. And I think sometimes even with one or two people who understand what we're going through, someone we can share with, someone who shares our worldview, make a world of difference. Absolutely. What else? For me, meditation is a big one. I'm a big-time meditator, and that's a great source of joy. It sort of helps balance out the joy of meditation and the tough stuff we face, and hopefully we find some kind of an equilibrium there. So we're all in this together, and everyone is feeling it to some degree. But, no one really wants to talk about it. I mean, who wants to bring up such a heavy topic in the middle of a conversation or at a dinner party or something? And it does need to be said that for any one of us, this is only one concern among many others in our lives. There are so many things in our lives that can cause us anxiety. Maybe there's someone here having financial difficulties or dealing with a housing issue. Maybe someone here is dealing with a serious health concern or family troubles. Some days we just have to deal with a more immediate concern. That's fair. Some days we'll say, I just can't think about climate change right now. And that's fair. Also, climate change is still pretty easy to ignore. It's a beautiful day and the sun is shining and the birds are chirping in the trees, and it's almost like the doctor's given you a really bad diagnosis, but you have no symptoms whatsoever. You feel great. So it's like, yeah, I'm going to think about that later. I'm just going to enjoy the day. The whole thing seems a little unreal. At the same time, climate anxiety is something we're all facing to some degree, and it's not getting any better. Today, I want to talk about 3 things that can help us with our climate anxiety. Number 1 is simply knowing the facts. Number 2 is gaining a wider perspective and finding a realistic hope. Number 3 is actually doing something about it. So, first of all, the facts. Although these facts may be pretty grim, for me, I'd rather know what we're dealing with than to go on living with some vague apocalyptic dread. Again, it's like getting that bad diagnosis from the doctor. If the doctor tells me I've got cancer or something, I want to say, give me all the facts. What's the prognosis? What's the treatment? What can I expect? I want to know what I'm dealing with. So let's look at some of the facts. Here are 3 hard truths. Now, I'm assuming all the folks here know the basics about, carbon in the atmosphere. It's causing the earth to heat up and the crazy weather, all that. I think we all probably know that much. So 3 hard truths. The first is that the amount of carbon in the atmosphere is still going up today. And we'll take the slide. Perfect. Here is the famous Keeling curve showing the amount of carbon dioxide in the atmosphere and how it's increasing over time. You can see that it's still going up, and you can see that it's not a straight line. It's curved, meaning that it's actually going up faster today than it ever has before. In about the middle of the graph, 1988, it passed 350 ppm, the so-called safe limit. Today, it's at 422. This is the highest it's been in 14 million years. Let's just take that in for a moment. 14 million years? I can't even conceive of 1 million years. Like 1 million years, that's 1,000 millennia. Like, it breaks your head trying to think about this. 14 million years. This alone should tell us that we are in a real emergency. It's crazy extreme. And all the speeches of all the politicians, I think of the great triumph of the Paris Accord, 2015, when all the countries of the world solemnly pledged to do everything in their power to get things under control. And I think of all the talk of green energy, on and on. So far, none of it has made any actual real difference to what's happening. This is a tough problem. This simple graph raises a whole lot of questions we don't have time to get into this morning, like who's at fault? And what does it tell us about the future of our global economy? Suffice to say that at this point, the carbon economy is a juggernaut, which so far has proved unstoppable. So that's the first hard truth. The second hard truth is that there is a time delay in the effects of carbon in our climate system. You put a pot of water on the stove and turn it up to high. It doesn't boil right away. It takes a few minutes to come to a boil. And likewise, in the changing seasons, the longest day of the year happens in June, the solstice. But the hottest weather doesn't come till about 6 weeks later. So there's that time delay. Well, so with carbon in the Earth's climate, there's a delay, but it's decades long. That means that today's climate calamities are the result of what we put up there 20, 30, 40 years ago. And today's carbon pollution is going to affect things for decades to come. So even if we could magically bring our emissions down to 0 today, so-called global weirding is set to get more extreme for some time to come. Best case scenario, we're in for a very rough ride. That's the second hard truth. The third hard truth, and I'm afraid it gets worse, is that in the climate system there are self-reinforcing feedback loops, the famous tipping points. Slide number 3. For example, sometime in the next 10 or 20 years, we'll probably see in the Arctic, for the first time in history, the so-called blue ocean event. That is when there is open water at the North Pole. Think about it. Santa Claus is going to have to trade in his sleigh for a boat. That's a change in our thinking. Problem is, ice reflects sun's heat, but open water absorbs it. So you can see how the results of the warming can become a cause of further warming. Or take this year's wildfire season in Canada. As a result of climate change, it was 6 times the average area burned, shattering past records. And the carbon released by these fires was more than 2.5 times Canada's current annual output. We're trying to bring that output down bit by bit, and this is just sweeping it off the table. So you can see how these processes can kind of take on a life of their own. Another example would be the permafrost in the far north. Over the centuries, this frozen soil has locked up huge stores of carbon. And now, as it begins to thaw, it's starting to release that carbon. These are just a few of many self-reinforcing feedback loops in the Earth's climate system. So the terrifying possibility is that all of these could cascade together and cause us to go over the edge into a global climate catastrophe, a hothouse Earth. Going back to that Keeling curve, it's like we lifted the carbon level up to a certain point, and then at that point, it kind of takes flight and takes off on its own, and we lose control of it altogether. So we're ready for the next slide. So we're on a slippery slope. Here's a graph that I put together. And the problem is we don't actually know how slippery the slope is. We don't know how far along is the point of no return. Currently, we are at 1.2 degrees of warming. Have we already passed the point of no return? Probably not. But it's not impossible that we have. We just don't know. And there's an army of scientists out there feverishly working to try and narrow that uncertainty. The way things are going, the best we can hope for is to limit warming to somewhere between 2 and 3 degrees. At that level, there is a significant risk. And if we continue with business as usual, following the lead of banks and oil companies, we will end up with 4, 5, or even 6 degrees of warming. At these levels, a global climate catastrophe is a near certainty. Such a catastrophe would happen very abruptly. We're talking decades, not centuries. If this happens, there will be a mass extinction of life on Earth to rival any in geological history. If this happens, very few of the children alive today will get to live out their natural lives. So let's just pause here. This is tough stuff. This is hard. How's everyone doing? It's heavy. It's difficult. So let's face it, to actually look climate change in the face like this is a challenge to our emotional and mental health. So we need to be kind to ourselves. We need to be gentle with ourselves. Don't expect to come to terms with this information all at once. It's a process. Like the work of grieving a loved one, when you lose someone you love, grieving them is not something you can just do in a day. This work takes time. And as with the process of grieving, it comes and it goes. We have to take breaks. And each of us has to do it in our own way and in our own time. And as with grieving, it's a lot easier to do together. We need to find people who will understand. We need to support one another. And we need to keep on doing the things that give us joy, like taking time to appreciate the miracle of being alive in this beautiful world. If we go crazy, we're no help to the earth. Life on earth needs us to be well. And we'll skip to slide 7. This is our work, to hold together in creative tension the overwhelming urgency of our situation and our own inner peace and joy and the love we share with one another. Okay, so who here is ready to talk about hope? Yes? Can we talk about hope, please? Hope is the second thing which helps us with our climate anxiety. So let's talk about it. But first, what do we mean by the word hope? We could say there are two kinds of hope, and we'll go back to slide number 6. There we are. There's what you could call passive hope, which is really nothing more than mere optimism. Oh, they can fix anything with their technology. We'll be fine. Or perhaps if you're religious, although I guess you guys aren't technically religious, people who are religious like to say, oh, God will take care of things. God wouldn't let anything bad happen. But then there's what Joanna Macy, my hero, what Joanna Macy calls active hope. Active hope, which is a commitment to do what we can to make the future we desire a reality, regardless of what we perceive the odds of success to be. Active hope can only emerge after the collapse of mere optimism. Slide 8. So I am hopeful. I wouldn't be here if I weren't hopeful. But I will admit I did go through a period of climate despair. I said, what's the point? We're all doomed. But then it came to me that I had fallen into a trap. I'd fallen into the trap of what's called binary thinking. Win or lose, succeed or fail, all or nothing. But reality is never a binary affair. It's never all or nothing. It's always a matter of degree. We don't get to fail. We only get to muddle through. And so every degree matters. In fact, every 0.1 of a degree matters. If that's not motivational, I don't know what is. I'm hopeful also because just as there are tipping points in the natural world, so there are what we could call social tipping points. We know that societal norms can change dramatically. Does anyone here remember what it was like around smoking in public places back in the day? I remember smoking in university class. I remember smoking in hospital. When I was 11 years old, I sang in the boys' choir in my dad's church. And once a week we had our choir practice, and the choir director chain smoked through the entire practice in a little small room full of children. Honestly, if I were to walk into a room full of kids today and light up a cigarette, they'd say he's psychotic. Come on. Attitudes can change dramatically. Or how about the shift in gender roles? It wasn't that long ago that it was pretty tough for a woman to become a doctor or an engineer or a lawyer. We know this. So attitudes can change. They can change dramatically. On that horrible slippery slope, some folks are scrambling to pull us back from the brink. There are others that are still forging ahead with business as usual, but the balance of power between those two groups is beginning to change. I feel it coming. Things are shifting already. It's happening, and it's so exciting. Until we concern about you see it in the paper, an article about housing and building new houses. Well, let's build them ecologically. Every single thing. It's not just environmentalists. It's everyone. This social tipping point will happen at different times in different countries and in different sectors of society. But I feel it's getting closer. In any social movement, all it takes is for 10 or 20% of people to be deeply committed to the change, and the whole of society can be swayed. Never doubt the power of an idea once it seizes an entire population. Or as Nelson Mandela said, it always seems impossible until it's done, and then it's obvious to everyone. Once genuine ecological concern becomes fully mainstream, even our most right-wing politicians, and I can think of one in particular, even they won't dare to ignore it. When Jesus speaks in the gospel about apocalyptic times, at one point in the Gospel of Matthew, he says, "These are but the birth pangs." Birth pangs. Something is happening here. There is a larger narrative that we can only dimly perceive. For now, it's like life in the birth canal. There's pressure, there's even distress, but it's going somewhere. Part of what is being born is a restoration of our soul connection with all living things. We as a society are learning to feel again, as our First Nations sisters and brothers say, that the creatures of the earth are all our relations. A few years ago, I found myself standing in the forest behind my place, and it came to me, not as a thought, but as a feeling. I found myself speaking, saying out loud to the trees, there's so many of you. And all this time, I've been treating you like objects. So what can we do? This is the third thing that helps with climate anxiety, taking action. There are so many things we can do to make a difference, and everything we do does make a difference. So let's have some fun with this. This is an experiment. I haven't tried this before. You're the guinea pigs. I'm going to turn on my timer here. Where is it? Let's see how many actions we can come up with collectively in 1 minute. Are you up for this? Are you ready? There are all kinds of things that you can do, that I can do in our lives that will help push the needle towards the change that's ready. I'll start, and then you can go in. Okay. I'm starting to use the bus a lot more, and if at all possible, I leave the car in the driveway. That's one. Okay, next. Walk. That's two. Excellent. What's next?
Eating less meat.
Eating less meat. Yes, that was your one too, right? We'll count that for 4. Okay. Who else? Don't lie. Fly, don't fly. Yes, exactly. Leave the airport at home. 5. Okay, how are we doing? Writing. Yes. Like what? Yes, that's coming to our next one. Save that one. Yes. So what else?
Next vehicle, hybrid or plug-in.
Yep, hybrid or plug-in. Next vehicle. That's 7.
Retrofitting houses with heat pumps and different.
Get a heat pump. That's right. We got solar panels in our house.
Hang your laundry on the clothesline.
Laundry on the clothesline. That's 8. Good. What?
Eat more local food.
Eat more local food. We're at the 9. It's good.
Support local farmers.
Support local farmers. That's 10.
Reuse as in just pop and cycle.
Oh, that's me. That's a minute. Well done. Excellent. Dismiss. There you go. I turned my phone off so it wouldn't go off during the service, but it meant the alarm didn't go. There we are. Well done. So many things. You know, people talk about climate paralysis, like, what are you going to do? What do I do? It's so easy. There's an endless list. You can start with the easy things. Start with the low-hanging fruit. And once you do one little thing, it makes it easier to do the next thing, and the next thing, and the next thing. Changing our personal lifestyles is necessary, but it's not enough. We're all captive to a system that makes it hard to live in balance with nature. So the system needs to change. A few years back, for the season of Lent, I resolved to give up single-use plastic. Well, that lasted about 4 hours until I had to go shopping in the grocery store. As things are, it's hard to live without plastic. As things are, it's pretty darn difficult to live without a car. If you live in the country, it's well nigh impossible. Most folks can't afford a Tesla. But there are things we can do to change the way the world works. So we're going to do this little thing again. This is a little more challenging. Ways that we can push the system, that we can exert a little pressure in the way the world works. And I'm going to set things to go here, see what we can come up with in a minute. We already have one. Write a letter. Write a letter to the paper, to a politician. Has a huge impact. What's something else we can do to help? This is a little more tough. Something to help change the world.
We need to work together to defund the militaries of the world and end war.
Campaign to end. The biggest polluter in the world is the world militaries. Exactly. So that's number 2. And we do that by writing letters, joining a group, whatever it may be. What else can we do?
But the group here at the church, the climate team, actually are in need of new members. So
join the
please,
climate team at the UU Church, number 3. Very good. Thank you, Leslie. I recognize your voice. What else? Educate people. Yeah, like what? How do we do that?
I'm going to school for natural resources, so I'm learning.
Fantastic.
Public outreach.
Public outreach, fantastic. Very good. That's 1 minute. We're going to take 2 minutes with this one, I'm going to say.
Join climate marches and get all your friends to come with you.
Yes, I was at the climate march on the 15th. Anyone else here was there? Wasn't that a gas? That was so much fun. James.
Go on the radio, Brian.
Go on the radio, Brian. Right. Absolutely.
Issue a questionnaire to the different political parties about how they would respond to
different
issues.
Election time. At the very least, vote. I'm assuming everyone here are people that vote. But yeah, politicians are very sensitive to what people are thinking. They want to know. So yeah, write them a letter, get to know them, call them up. Do the questionnaire before the election. It's nonpartisan. Everyone gets the same question. What else?
Counter anti-science ideas.
Yes.
Counter protest.
Yes. So much misinformation about so many things, and we need to speak truth. Okay, you can just be quiet now. Yeah.
Join an advocacy group.
Yeah, and donate. That's the easiest thing. It's very safe. You're not going to get in trouble. And there's so many good groups. The Ecology Action Center, Greenpeace, wonderful list of groups. A donation to a group has a huge impact. There's so much that we can do. Again, to quote my hero, Joanna Macy, she's fond of saying, "What a time to be alive. We get to be a part of this amazing revolution. We get to make a difference on earth that will be felt for generations to come." Or we think of dear old Gandalf. I'll go up a slide or down a slide, I'm not sure. There we are. And I haven't got the quote in front of me, but I'll go by memory. Frodo says, I wish that it were not so, that I had been born in this shush. I wish I had not been born into this time. You know, this horrible ring has come to light and it's threatening the world and he's got to do this horrible thing. And then I got to come around so I can read it. And dear old Gandalf says, "So do I," said Gandalf, "so do I. And so do all who live to see such times. But that is not for them to decide. All we have to decide is what to do with the time that is given us." So in short, times are tough. Let's be brave and let's get going. Thank you. Oh, and Leslie said, don't go without giving a plug for this wonderful book. I read this book. This is Joanna Macy's latest book. I read this with a group of people, and it really changed my thinking, it gave me so much energy and so much hope, and all four of us were activated by the experience. And if you have a group here in the church, this would be a great, there are little exercises at the end of each chapter. It's called Active Hope by Joanna Macy. It's a good one.
The after choir is going to, what there is of the after choir today, is going to do a song by Carrie Newcomer. Kind of that sense about, if not now, when are we going to take action? And once the chorus goes, if not now, tell me when. If not now, tell me when. We may never see this moment or place in time again. If not now, tell me when. So you'll get a feel for that as the song proceeds. Verse 1. If not now, tell me when. If not now, tell me when. We may never see this moment or place in time again. If not now, tell me when. I see sorrow, trouble in this land. I see sorrow, trouble in this land. Although there will be struggle, we'll make the change we can. If not now, tell me when. If not now, tell me when. If not now, tell me when. We may never see this moment or place in time again. If not now, tell me when. I may never see the promised land. I may never see the promised land. And yet we'll make a journey and walk it hand in hand. If not now, tell me when.
done. Every daughter, every son, every soul that's ever longed for something better, something brighter. It will take a change of heart for this to mend. It will take a change of heart for this to mend. But miracles do happen, every shining now and then. If not now, tell me when. If not now, tell me when. If not now, tell me when. We may never see this moment or place in time again. If not now, tell me when. And miracles will happen, every shining now and then. If not now, tell me when.
Time for the offering. Community is made possible by the offering of individual skills, commitments, and gifts. The truth is that we need each, and we need money to survive. And yet nobody's worth and dignity is in any way measured by the amount of money that they have or don't have to give. So during the offering, we invite you to offer what you can, if you can, to support this sanctuary of progressive spirituality. Today, any undesignated money in our collection bowls will go, does anybody know? Back to
Brunch, I think. Let's say to the brunch today.
the brunch, okay, the Saturday brunch. And as previously mentioned in earlier services, if you'd like to donate to the roof campaign, please put it in an envelope and mark roof or comments thus in your e-transfer. If you don't carry cash, you can donate by e-transfer to the treasurer at uuch.ca. Our closing hymn today is number 170 in the Gray Hymnal. And this is a complex truth, if there ever was one. We are a gentle, angry people.
And I would say we can talk.
Oh, good.
You always sit, stand. I don't always have to tell you.
Just going to do the 4 main verses of this.
The 4? Okay, that's good to know. Okay. We are a gentle, angry people, and we are singing, singing for our lives. We are a gentle, angry people, and we are singing, singing for our singing, singing for our lives. We are a land of many colors, and we are singing, singing for our lives. We are a land of many colors, and we are singing, singing for our lives.
So as we extinguish the chalice, we'll do our closing song here together.
Oh, I was like, what's the closing song? So on the back of your service, order of service, is the words for "We have spent time together." There we go. Same tune as the first one. Those who you don't know. We have spent
Time together, and these holy moments give us strength to go down the winding road.
until we meet again. We have spent time together, and these holy moments give us strength to go down the winding road until we meet again. And my prayer for you is a peace that's true until we meet again.
Thank you, everyone.
You haven't extinguished the chalice.
Oh, well.
Jesus has to extinguish the chalice.
Enjoy coffee and conversation in the ballroom.
I just want to say, what a great church! The music rocks, everything